What's up, everybody? I'm MJ Acosta-Ruiz, and this is Becoming Undefined. Now, you may know me as one of your favorite sports girlies, but this show is all about breaking the stereotypes and peeling back all the layers. Now, I want you to keep one thing in mind. Many things can be true all at once. So let's get into it, because my guest today has the voice of a powerhouse and an angel. Talk about being more than one thing at once. And that's just scratching the surface. The one and only Ayoni is joining us today. And our theme for today is, who says you have to be just one thing? Breaking the mold and quite literally building the soundtrack for your life. Ayoni, thank you so much for being here and coming through today.
Having me.
Now, I want to start with the night that we met at the table with one of your mentors, Alicia Keys. And I want to play a clip from that night.
Incredible. And that was the first time that I met the artist that you're going to see. And we started to create a beautiful documentary also about She's the Music that was debuted at the Tribeca Film Festival. We all got together and performed together at the night. And man, when you hear this woman sing and play and produce and write, and it's not a game because she's fresh, it's pretty impressive and incredible. And so you guys get the opportunity, we all tonight get the opportunity to see the incomparable. I'm excited to bring her up, Ayoni.
What I loved about it is that not only did she give you your flowers, very deservedly so, but it was this moment where she's just saying all of these things that you have already accomplished and all of the many facets, not just of your career, but of the woman you are. Can you take me back to your POV of that night? Because we're all like, proud aunties, like recording this moment. What did you feel in that moment, just listening to that introduction, getting ready to go perform?
Yeah, I think the introduction was definitely like a dream come true. I really appreciated such a warm welcome, and also just the opportunity to literally perform for so many incredible people, tastemakers, you know, people in the industry. But yeah, I think in that moment, I really just felt like a lot of gratitude. I think it's one thing, you know, just as women in this industry, you know, fighting to be understood or fighting for certain platforms. But I think it's really an amazing thing when someone that you look up to sees you and acknowledges you and understands you. So I think for me, I was just really grateful for that moment, and also just to feel, you know, seen and understood.
But I was raging flames and rolling deep when love appeared.
I think that theme of being seen is still, I think, tough at any point in your life, right? Because it's not just even about a reflection of you, of representation, but somebody seeing what's inside. Not just the potential, but the drive, like that fire.
Right.
When did you have that spark moment? Like, this is what not just what I want to do, but what I am meant to do, that music is my calling.
Yeah. I think I felt from a very young age that music was my calling. I don't know that the skill set was necessarily there immediately, but I think that I definitely did feel a pull to music. I felt like just something, you know, very clear from maybe the age of like 4 or 5 that music was what I was supposed to do and like what I was going to do. I think at that age, I was more coming from the standpoint of singing, and like that was like the gift that I'd kind of noticed. And I think that other people in school or in church had also seen in me. But I think over time, songwriting and more of like artistry and just like artist development, I think as I got older, I started to see it as a viable option, you know, especially in my teen years. I think probably like as in my preteens, it was definitely a passion and something that I loved and seemed to resonate in spaces, but I wasn't completely confident at that age that I could like have a sustainable, healthy career. I think we're very used to like the starving artist trope, and you know, that can be a little bit daunting. But I was very encouraged and supported by my parents to like pursue music and learn more. And so I think by the time I was getting ready to go to university, I did feel like it was tangible.
Which I think it's wild for me because you talk about your preteen years, and I was a mess. Okay, a disaster.
Weren't we all?
Weren't we all?
Right.
It was not cute. I didn't know. All I wanted to do was dance. But I guess we are tethered, right, to something that's pulling us to go, even though we're young and like still trying to figure it out. I think it's so beautiful for you to have that acknowledgement, that intuition. And I love that you brought up your parents because your family is from Barbados,
yes.
correct? But you've lived all over the world, and I think that has influence, and correct me if I'm wrong, not just in your songwriting, because we hear so many songs named after the cities you've lived in, which I think is so cool. But also I think it lends to your poise and your grace. Because I was like, what do you mean she's 25 years old? Like, what? How do you feel that having that world education, right? Because travel is such an education, has influenced you as a woman and as an artist?
Yeah, I think from a very young age, I think traveling and just seeing different countries and different cultures, one, I think just helped me to have more of a global perspective and not necessarily see myself or my city, you know, at the center of my own universe. Yeah, you know, I think sometimes when you just are from one place, it can really feel like that is the whole world. But I think for me, like, seeing other things, it gave me some perspective that, okay, there's some differences, but there's also a lot of similarities. I think like for me, especially from a songwriting standpoint, what I really enjoyed was the fact that, you know, I could live in somewhere like I lived in Indonesia, and for some performances, you know, people might not speak a ton of English, you know, but they can still resonate with the music and the musicality and still feel in some sense the emotions that I was portraying, and vice versa, you know? So I think that for me was a very helpful and kind of interesting thing. I also think that I always kind of had an interest in like psychology, or just like, you know, like social psychology, why we do the things that we do, or what are the shared human experiences and emotions. And so I also think that kind of interest was like fostered as well, traveling and just seeing, okay, in some cultures these are the shared traits, and in some cultures these are the shared traits, and why, you know, and how that kind of shapes people.
Have you found that there's a common thread that's more prominent than others as you talk to people in your travels and even in your experience as an artist? Because music brings together a lot. To your point, even if you don't understand your words, you feel what you feel, right? You have a visceral reaction. And I think that was one of the most striking things the night I met you. We got to hear some of your music inside this like amazing Dolby studio. I was spoiled because listen, okay, I'm trying to recreate that, which my husband is not opposed to. He's like, more speakers? Yeah, let's do that. We got to listen to Ayoni. But I think for me, I was like, okay, she's got like bluesy. It's a little Motown, but it's also like, it's hard to pinpoint your sound, which is what I love about it so much. I feel like there isn't a specific genre, and that's what I love about it so much. It's like your own thing. How did you develop? Or is it still developing?
I think it's still developing. I think that, you know, I went to school at USC, and I studied their pop performance program. I would give them a lot of credit in terms of just introducing me to like different genres in like the American, I guess, musical trajectory. So the first year I was there, we focused a lot on like Motown. So, you know, James Brown, Big Mama Thornton, certain artists like that. And I think for me, like soul, blues, you know, some of those genres. Yes, absolutely. Like that was kind of the space where I learned how to embody that. And I think when you think about certain singers like, you know, Big Mama Thornton, like sounding pretty is not the intention there. It's like storytelling and really effectively communicating emotions. And so I think that was the first time for me as a vocalist where I kind of gave myself permission to, you know, pursue a feeling or pursue a story as opposed to just aesthetically wanting to sound great. And so I think just genre-wise, you know, through that education, we went through a lot of genres. I think before I arrived in LA and started studying that program, I was much more singer-songwriter. So kind of, you know, Adele, Sarah Bareilles, people that were just a lot more song based,
Yeah.
in terms of their artistry, and that seems to resonate with people. But I think Thornton helped me to kind of learn how to like pull from different genres, from different sounds, from different vocal techniques, to create kind of my own world and universe. And I think like in my first year there, I started writing my first EP and creating that project. So I was having all this new information and like language, and also getting to take that to these records that a lot of them are written on piano or guitar, and then think about production and think about like soundscaping and things that up until that point, the songs kind of directed that themselves.
Sure. Yeah. I like that there's all this different influence, right? And I'd love to talk about, because I love a fellow Caribbean queen, time in Barbados, because you still go back and you see, do you remember just going back to the island? Because I feel like when I go back to the Dominican Republic, there's just something that grounds me that's different, right? Do you got that same feeling?
Absolutely. I feel like in more recent years, I've been able to go back to Barbados more. But there's always that feeling of just like absolute peace when I land. And I feel like when I was working on my first project, when I went to USC Iridescent, I did go home to Barbados kind of like the summer I was finishing the records. And I had just been going through a lot, getting that record out and being in school and, just dealing with stuff, trying to bring the music together. It was my first time. And I definitely was kind of in a state of turmoil, when I went home. And I think I just remember how at peace I felt, through that process, and just feeling really, really, really grounded. I feel like Barbados, from the U.S., it's very different. It very much is an island feel. But there's a groundedness I can reach there that I just don't really feel anywhere else. So, I think for me, even now with this album in different eras, like every time I am able to go back, it's like I just have so much more perspective when I leave.
Yeah. I like to think it's like our ancestors like tapping in.
Yes,
when
for
we go,
sure.
Like almost like the literal roots from the ground coming up, like, okay, sit down, child.
Yes,
You're
go
gonna
sit
be
by the
okay.
water.
Literally.
Okay.
Touch the ground, sit by the water, and feel it. I don't know how much, like in DR, it's all about sit down, have a cup of coffee. Like, are you guys more tea?
I couldn't. I feel like maybe even fruit juice more than anything. I do feel like my family drinks a lot of tea. I can't speak for everyone because it's really hot, so I don't know if everyone is like big on tea. But I would definitely say more tea than anything. I don't really know there to be a huge coffee obsession there, but I'm sure people drink it.
No, for sure. So like for us, like cafecito time is a big thing, which is sort of a segment I like to do here on the show. We have water because of course you're a vocalist and I did not want to ruin the instrument up in here. But really the bigger thing about that is gathering, coming together and like getting into it. So I would love to get into that with you now in this little cafecito conversation. Alicia essentially alluded to how you are a master of all trades, if you will. Is teacher also in that? Do you feel like you're somebody who can like lend their knowledge of the industry, of music, of all of that?
Yeah, I think right now it's a lot more informal. I think in the past I have been more active with like songwriting and like teaching. I love working with young musicians because I think myself when I was younger, it was kind of just a lot of like trial and error and kind of living in my own bubble. But I definitely see like soon, hopefully, like being able to more formally just like give any knowledge that I have. I think we always as people don't feel ready for that. But I think that even just in the years of like navigating indie independently in the industry, I think that I have learned some things and I have kind of been through some things that I think more informally, like with friends or, people that I went to school with that might have questions. I love to talk with, but I think in the future, like, end goal, I would love to like end my career just like fully like building up the next generation.
Oh my God, I love that. Okay, let's test it out. I'm not a singer. I always admire singers because I feel very deeply you can either sing or you can't, right? Like this is a God-given talent. You can teach people how to play an instrument. You can teach people, but like your instrument is within you. But I love to test out this theory because I wasn't once a girl pop group, very briefly.
Really?
It was flash in the pan. It was a harebrained idea. Child, many years ago. But I'd love to see if you could teach me how to hold a note and harmonize.
Okay.
If you would so indulge.
Okay, yeah.
So give me all my musical talents are in my body. Like, I'm a dancer.
I'm gonna try to go somewhere in the middle.
Oh my God. Yes. Is that it?
Okay, yeah.
Child.
So you
Okay.
hold that note,
Okay.
and I'll come in with the harmony.
Okay. Genius. Gunny didn't like it. Gunny. It wasn't
that
you.
was a harmony.
It wasn't, but we did it, Gunny. We did. There's hope for me yet. Listen. Oh my God.
Please.
Oh, thank you for that.
Of course.
I was so nervous. I'm sweating.
Of course.
I'm sweating. That was nerve-wracking.
Great.
If you could have a moment of retribution to tell somebody one thing, it could be positive or negative, a moment that you're like, man, I wish I would have said that, either to put somebody in their place or like, wow, that was a real moment of gratitude that I didn't get the chance to capitalize on. You can even do both. What would it be? I replay conversations in my head all the time.
You know,
Like after they're
I
done.
feel like I don't really believe in regrets.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there are some people that you're like, well, I really could have like cussed them out.
Right.
But it's like life gets them. And it gets them good.
Right. You don't even have to worry about it.
Every time.
Yeah.
But I do think that like for myself, there are some moments that looking back, I'm like, wow, like you could have enjoyed that more. You could have just been more present. But I think, you know, that's kind of just a fact of life is like we always have to focus on just being more grounded and like appreciating moments. But I think if there was anything that I could like retroactively speak to, that would probably be it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's been a note that like over the years people have given me, you know what I mean? Because I'm so tunnel vision on like where I want to go that every now and then you just have to be like, hey, you're in a really great moment. It's okay to just enjoy it. But I actually think the night that we met was a night where I was just like vibing, just enjoying the moment.
I felt like you were very, I was like, what, you're about to perform? Like you were very like easy. I felt like you were really taking it in and you were so thoughtful in your conversations with all of us that night. I was like, oh my God, she's gonna be so good.
Thank you. That was like a moment that it's like, you know, little me would be like, what's going on? You know, that's so cool. So I really have been trying to be better about just like enjoying things.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. And it's so important now because we get so distracted easily and like spin out so easily. With that in mind, I always feel like we should unpack it, right? Like we carry so much crap all the time. Was there a box or one box or stereotype, even like life or that the industry certainly tried to put you in that you were like, you know what? We're not doing that. We're breaking out of this. Yeah,
I think for me, the box has always just been being multifaceted and being understood for that. I think I used to take it super personally. Yeah. When I first started out, I just always in my mind was like, I think I also was of like an older generation that, you know, if you have talent and work ethic, it's going to work out. You know what I mean? And someone's going to hear you and it's going to be that dream of, you know, whatever. And I think when I came out here and it's like TikTok and all these metrics and all these things that like I wasn't prepared for, I wasn't thinking about. Right. It's like, oh, wait, the whole digital space is suddenly like more currency than just who you are, how you show up or how you, you know, affect a room when you open your mouth. And I think it took me a little time to pivot. And it took me a little time to understand that a lot of times it's just a lack of context. It's not even that people don't like me or don't understand my music. It's just that they need to hear a wider range to understand who I am, because maybe from one song, you're not going to get the whole package. And it's not necessarily that someone has it out for me. It's just that context is important. And like I have the opportunity to over time consistently show all of the different facets of me. And so I think for a long time it felt like my hardest battle was just like being myself and being understood or celebrated for that and what that contributed to the musical space. But I think I had to also give myself permission to be misunderstood and like still be fine with that.
Yes. And that's the toughest part. Giving
It
yourself
is.
the permission.
It
right?
is, but it's like the people who get it, and the people who don't. And that's okay. That's with anything.
Right.
So, yeah, I think for me that just not, subconsciously absorbing any of that kind of doubt or anything is just important for my creative process.
Yeah, that comes with a lot of self-awareness too, which most people can't tap into. Okay, before I let you go and we unwind, what chapter do you feel like you're in now? Like, what's coming for you?
The best one.
Yes,
it's
I
all
know that's
been
right.
leading up to this moment.
Yeah.
Yes,
That
it's
makes
like
me
I
happy.
just turned 25. I'm working on my first album. I feel in a place of peace in my life where it's like the album is very heavy.
Sure.
Just talking with a friend and she's like, "Girl, you need more happy songs."
But
I'm
if
like,
that's
skip
the
this
space,
album.
right? It's not it.
It's not it yet, but
Yeah.
it's like I am happy. I am really like in a good space, and I think with the album too, it's actually such a celebration of being multifaceted. And I think with me, I understood that I have to create my own sound in music for people to understand me.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm just weaving through sounds, but there's not necessarily a through line, it's going to kind of throw people like, well, what are you? And how do I classify this? But I think with this album, there is a consistency. There's a cohesion. It feels like I've completely built this world around my music and my artistry. So it's getting good.
That.
This chapter feels like the start of the rest of my life. So yeah, I'm just enjoying it. I'm like riding the waves every day, but I'm super just excited. There's a lot of potential, I feel like.
Do you think that even though the songs may be heavy, it's like a cathartic process for you? Like
Absolutely.
now I can put it out there and let it go and like really lean into my happiness.
Yes, because I feel like for me, it's been really draining working on some of these songs. I'm like, some songs are about relationships that were years long and ended, and it's like I took a long time to allow myself to like grieve through my art. I think for a while when I was going through certain situations, I didn't want to know what I thought about it. Because I think when I pick up my pen sometimes, like the level of introspection that I can get to can be a little too much.
I want to disassociate a little bit
all
more.
of that right in this moment. I think we're going to revisit that down the line. So I think, having to sit with myself and see myself completely, and put who I am and who I've been and who I hope to be in a sound is a labor of love, you know? And so I think that when it's all said and done and I can hang up this album and just move into the future, like there's so much that I'm letting go of and that I'm leaving behind, and I'm very excited about it. I'm like, I can't wait. Like we're almost there.
Yeah.
So
I cannot wait for the world to see this and for every iteration that comes after that, because it's all an evolution. Ayoni, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm so proud of you.
Thanks for having me.
So this is what I'm talking about when it comes to authenticity. This is what I'm talking about finding your own space and really leaning into what is going to make you fulfilled. Ayoni is such a perfect example of not only being wise beyond her years, but also just being able to pinpoint something in your life that's going to make you truly happy in spite of what the rest of the world, what the rest of your industry tries to stick you into. These boxes, these molds that so much of society tries to push us into, they really don't exist. They're created, they're a fabrication, and it's incumbent upon us to figure out how to break through it. And look, that's not an easy journey. That's not an easy journey. So I love that Ayoni has her music, her vessel to pour into it, and that we all get to benefit from the journey and find what really resonates with us in it. I always find that with music, a song can mean something to me that means something completely else to my best friend, something else to my mom, something else to my abuela. It doesn't matter who's listening. We're all gonna find our own journey in it. And that's what it's about. Figure out what works for you. And listen, I know that's hard. We're overstimulated. We're not supposed to be this stimulated. But social media, the digital space can bring a lot of good. It's all about what you can tune out. And that's not easy either. So I hope that this conversation brought you a little bit of joy, and if nothing else, a little bit of perspective. Thanks for checking in and hanging out with us on Becoming Undefined. See you next time.